Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at race number 9 at Saratoga on Alabama Saturday. This graded stakes race kicks off a 50-cent pick four. Here's the field for the grade 2 Lake Placid, a mile and a 16th on the inner turf. $200,000 is the purse. 11 entered the Lake Placid for turf. The 12 through 14 are entered main track only. And the horse they're all going to have to beat is the number 7, She Feels Pretty. Never off the board from 5 lifetime starts, and she ran really well last time out at the Belmont Oaks at a distance that might be a little far for her.
Yeah, maybe she ran fine in that race, though. Dropping back in distance probably does help her, though. Dan, I thought this was a super interesting race, and I felt like I could make cases for just about everybody. And even as I say that, I recognize that She Feels Pretty. She's the horse to beat.
She Feels Pretty is a very tactically inclined filly. You can place her anywhere you want in the context of the race if you're John Velazquez. So as we look at our time form US pace projector, it's no surprise that she's sitting comfortable just off of the early leaders. The 8 Ori was a gate to wire winner in a maiden claiming race, so this is a big jump in class. The 4 De Regresso is some tactical speed, not exactly a blazer. Maybe Deep Satin will work out a nice pace tracking ground saving trip after breaking from the rail.
I can see that for sure. One thing that we should, mention about this pace projector, Dan, is we have 2 shippers in this race that don't appear on this pace projector. One of them, Beautiful Love, has an outside post, but has pretty good tactical speed. And the other one, who is the number 6 in here, over from France, Leray, that horse has a big finish in her.
Let's start things off with the number 1 Deep Satin, never off the board from 3 lifetime starts, including this victory in a maiden race at Saratoga, where she got a lot closer to the pace than in her prior outings. And I think that's a very good sign for her overall maturity. And once she makes the lead, she stays to her task in very professional fashion. She's improved with each and every start. And I think at 10-1 is a very fair price on the morning line.
I agree. Listen, she's stepping up off of a maiden win here, and she's facing a really good field. So, that kind of stuff is working against her, but she's got a great post in here. Her first 2 starts were really good, I thought. She didn't win either of them, but she ran well in both of them. Probably moved a little too soon, 2 starts back, and got nailed on the wire by the last run. She dominated that field last time. I thought she looked really good winning.
Chad Brown has 3 in here, including the 2 Greyache. Flavien Prat will take them out. A maiden winner, 3 starts back. She just missed in a first-level allowance against Proctor Street, who's also in this field. Now, I thought that race went to closers. I know the fractions didn't look very fast, but that first quarter went in sub-23, and I think that cooked the pace setters, maybe helping Greyache a little bit.
It's very true, Dan. That race did sort of go to closers. The early pace was pretty good in that race. Overall, Greyache had a pretty good trip in there and just missed, but I also thought she ran really well in there. And when it all comes down to it, I thought Proctor Street maybe just got a little bit of a better trip making the last run in there and just nailed her. But I thought they both ran well. 2 starts back in the Wonder again. Greyache, I'm not going to sit there and say that she was going to win. The horse that won that race, suggests is a really good horse, but this horse did not have a lot of room in the stretch, was in very tight there, and would have been closer at the end. She ran an underrated race in the Wonder again.
The number 3, Gallup Brand, is a proven commodity over this course and distance. Winning the grade 3 with anticipation here is a 2-year-old in her second lifetime start. Now, the issue with Gallup Brand is she just doesn't have any early speed. So you know where she's going to be after the opening quarter mile or so. She's going to be far back. And at that point, she needs a pace, and she also needs a little bit of a trip. She also probably needs to improve a little bit off her current form.
She probably does. I struggled to make real excuses, I guess, Dan, for her 2 starts so far this year. But maybe she's ready to jump forward now, because as you've already pointed out, she was a really good 2-year-old. She won the with anticipation over the boy. She beat Carson's Run in that race, and she beat him fair and square. That was just won the grade 1 Saratoga Derby last week. So, she beat a good horse. Maybe she had a great setup off the layoff, the Wild Applause. They were blazing on the lead in there, but maybe that was just too much for her off the layoff with them running away from her. And she didn't really kick that hard. I didn't like her last race that much, but she spent a lot of time in between horses. I kept trying to make excuses for her, Dan, at a big price, and I couldn't quite get there.
The 4 is De Regreso, who had a 3-race win streak at Gulfstream Park, snapped last time out when shipping up to Saratoga for the Lake George, but she still finished ahead of a few of these. And as we saw on the pace projector, she has the tactical speed to get close to the pace. I wonder how much improvement is left after 11 lifetime starts, facing a field of more lightly raced runners that might have more upside.
The same concerns, and I do think she's probably going to have to improve to win this race. Overall, I thought her Lake George trip was a pretty good one. She had room home on the inside for most of the stretch there before it got tight at the very end. I just didn't think she was good enough.
Chad Brown put blinkers on the 5 Spaladay last time out, and she really seemed to appreciate them. Shipped down to Monmouth, she won this race, the Boiling Springs, at a mile and a 16th, and she came with a really nice kick. She was able to bull her way off the inside to get clear sailing in the stretch, and once she does, it's only a matter of time before she bowls over the pace setter.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure she beat a great field in this spot there, but I like the way that she did it. I've been a fan of this horse from day one, and I do think she's starting to figure things out. The blinkers seem like they really helped her last time. She's a dangerous horse in here. She's going to be a good price.
The 6 Le Ray looks like a private purchase after her most recent start back in June at Longchamp, where she won for the second straight race. She's now with West Point Thoroughbreds. I thought she looked good in some of her races over there in France, Mike. She does finish off her races very well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought she started out with some potential. She caught a couple of races there over heavy ground over the winter, and maybe she just didn't like that. She didn't run well in those races, but she's gotten back on track recently. They cut her back to 6.5, 2 back. She came from last and just absolutely steamrolled that field with a big finish. And then they moved her up in class last time back out to a mile. Did the same thing, Dan. They sort of changed up her running style in her last 2 starts, took her back, let her make one run, and she flies through the stretch in those races.
Here's She Feels Pretty, a close third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf last year as the favorite. She won the Hilltop in her seasonal debut. Just a great spot Cherie DeVoe found against a weaker field to get some fitness for She Feels Pretty. And then they stretched her out to a mile and 3/16, and she's going to be involved on the pace with this horse down on the rail. And it's a protracted battle that they're involved in. And the problem is the winner's going to come from out of it, and that winner's pretty good. Cinderella's Dream, who backed up this performance by winning the Grade 2 Saratoga Oaks with a 94 buyer. She Feels Pretty was giving no quarter in the final 100 yards.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it too. I mean, I guess you could look at it and say that the mile and 3/16 was too far for her, but she didn't run like it was too far for her. She ran really well in there and got steamrolled by a really good horse. She missed a head bob for second to Suggesta, who's also a really good horse. Dan, I don't know, man. I think she's way the horse to beat. And they're obviously cutting back it's not going to hurt her in here, but I don't think she needs it. She's the horse to beat, I think.
Ori is the number 8, and she finally got an opportunity to shine on turf in her second lifetime start. It's only a $75,000 maiden claimer, but we watch Ori, and she showed fine early speed in this race, and Kendrick Carmouche was able to relax her through an opening quarter and a very manageable 24-3, and she has plenty left in the tank.
Yeah, just got loose on the lead in this race and never really faced a serious challenge. I appreciate the way that she keeps finding through the stretch here, Dan, and she stays clear. But considering the trip that she pulled in this race, and now that the race that they're running her in off of that win, she better run a lot better than that.
She likes to be close to the pace. The 9 Proctor Street likes to come from out of it, as she did in both starts, winning both of them by short margins. This first level allowance at Saratoga on July the 18th, the closer's race that we talked about earlier on, she comes widest and fastest. Greyache is going to finish second.
Greyache is right in front of her, Dan. They're both going to overtake these leaders inside the final furlong, and they both stay on very well to the end. Proctor Street dead game here to just get up. I thought Tyler Gaffalione gave this filly a perfect ride in this race, and it was just enough. She got there. I like both of her races. I don't know that I would bet her back in this race. She was a huge price winning that one. She'll be a little bit shorter here against a tougher field, but she's good.
The 10 is Dynamic Pricing, also trained by Chad Brown. Mike, this one just seems like a little bit of an in and outer. Didn't run very well in the Florida Oaks, rebounded with a score in the Edgewood over Yielding Going at Churchill Downs, and then just seemed a little bit flat last time out against She Feels Pretty in the Belmont Oaks. Was it a situation last time where she found that distance a little too far?
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm going to disagree slightly with your take on this horse as far as her being in and out. I thought her Florida Oaks. I thought she had a terrible trip in that race, and I just threw that race. I thought she had no chance the way that she was ridden that day. Got a much better trip in the Edgewood. I thought she won that race fair and square with a good figure. I thought that was a really good performance on Oaks Day. And then they came back in the Belmont Oaks last time. She breaks terribly from the gate in that race and winds up back off the pace. And then as she's trying to rally through the stretch, a horse shifts out in front of her. It was hard to see if they made contact, Dan, but that horse really bothered her, knocked her off stride in that race, and she just didn't really fire after that. I think she has excuses for her bad performances, and I think her good performances are good enough to win this race.
The 11 is Beautiful Love, and Beautiful Love is a Godolphin homebred. It's Charlie Appleby. We know what they can do at Saratoga. Heck, we know where they can do at Colonial or anywhere in North America for that matter. And Beautiful Love invades off of a nice win in Dubai. Let's go back to that race. Now, this race is all the way back in the middle of February, but Beautiful Love does have some work to do in the stretch, and she really fires in the lane and wins going away as she pleases.
This is an impressive win. It's class relief for her. They stepped her back a little bit into an easier spot, but she absolutely blasts this field with a big finish. And it's not like this race came out of nowhere, Dan. I mean, she was pretty good as a 2-year-old. And just go back 2 starts back. This was 2 weeks before this race when she was in against Cinderella's Dream, her stablemate. Cinderella's Dream was much the best in there. This horse ran really well to be second to her in that spot. Didn't get a great post in here. She's a super dangerous horse.
The rest of the field entered main track only, so we'll move on to our top picks for the Lake Placid. Mike, you're going with Le Ray. She's shown off a strong kick in her races overseas. She's now with Christophe Clement. I'm expecting her to get covered up early and come with one big lake kick. A fast pace would certainly help.
Yeah, I agree with that. We'll see if she can work out the right trip here, Dan. But I'm going to take her. This was just the kind of race I thought it was so wide open that I did not want short prices on top in this race. I'm going to try the 6. I'm also going to use a lot of the 10 dynamic pricing because I think she fits right in with these horses, and I think she'll be a good price. I think the 7 is the horse to beat them, but I'm going to try to beat her.
Yeah, the 7's the horse to beat, not only because of what she's done on the track, her accomplishments, but just the tactical speed where she can get the jump on the true closers in this race. Maybe to liven up the exotics, I'm going to use Le Ray underneath, but I also am curious to see if Spaladay is a new horse with the blinkers. She did fire well against a weaker field last time out. 6-10-7-2 for Mike, 7-5-6-10 for me. It's the Lake Placid on Alabama Saturday at the Spa. Best of luck.